Mark Wilson sat in stunned silence, reflecting on the last 12 hours. His wedding day had started as one of the happiest moments of his life. His future stretched out before him, bright and promising. He had married Jen Sillers Wilson, the woman he adored, in a beautiful ceremony, surrounded by family and friends. The reception had been a joyous blur of laughter, music, and champagne toasts. Mark had indulged in a few glasses, but he remained clear-headed enough to remember every moment. Jen had also drunk a little, but it hadn't seemed to dampen their excitement. The plan had been simple. They would slip away from the reception before everyone else and head to their bridal suite. Their honeymoon awaited, and so did the long-anticipated consummation of their marriage. They had agreed, from the moment they got serious 8 months ago, to wait until their wedding night, a commitment they both believed would strengthen their bond. They had been with others before, but this would be different, special, a new beginning. But then something changed. During one of their final dances, Jen had leaned in close, her breath warm against his ear, and whispered that she had a surprise for him. She slipped a neatly folded note into his hand, her fingers lingering just long enough to send a shiver down his spine. "Wait 20 minutes before reading it," she murmured, pressing a lingering kiss to his cheek before slipping away. Hand in hand with his best man, Tom Daly, Mark had obeyed, trusting her completely. He made his rounds, thanking distant relatives and shaking hands with old friends, all the while anticipating whatever surprise his new wife had in store. He waited longer than instructed, 30 minutes, maybe more, before finally unfolding the note. His entire world collapsed in an instant. "Mark, my beloved husband. I think we should start a new wedding tradition. Since we'll be spending the rest of our lives together, I believe the wedding night should be about strengthening bonds, not just ours but the ones we share with those closest to us. I want my first night as a married woman to be spent with the best man, showing him why he was chosen for the role. Likewise, you should share this night with the maid of honor, Anne. This way, our dearest friends will always feel intimately connected to our marriage. By the time you read this, Tom and I will already be together. Please don't try to interfere, it's already happening. Anne is waiting for you in the bridal suite. Call her, take her to bed, and enjoy our new tradition. We'll see each other in the morning before the honeymoon. Love you, Jen." Mark felt the blood drain from his face as he read and reread the note. His hands shook. His heart pounded so loudly that he barely registered the noise of the reception around him. How could she do this? How could she assume he would accept this? Then the realization hit him like a punch to the gut. She hadn't assumed, she knew he wouldn't. That was why she had played on his trust, insisting he wait before reading the note. She had given herself a head start, ensuring that by the time he understood what was happening, she and Tom would already be together. There would be no time for him to stop it. Dazed, Mark pulled out his phone and called Anne. After a few rings, a groggy voice answered. "Hello. Who is this?" "And it's Mark," he said, his voice hollow. "I'm sorry to wake you. Can you talk?" She sounded more alert now. "Mark. What's wrong? Where's Jen?" Mark clenched his jaw. "Apparently, she's spending the night with Tom. She expected me to do the same with you." Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. "Oh my God," Anne whispered. "She actually went through with it. You knew about this?" Mark demanded, anger flaring. "I begged her not to do it," Anne said bitterly. "I told her it would destroy everything. But she thought she could manipulate you into playing along." "Mark, listen. I never agreed to this. And even if I had, I'm a lesbian. My girlfriend June is here with me now. We were asleep until you called." Mark blinked. "Wait, June is with you. But Jen told me you were interested in men sometimes. That you'd." "She lied," Anne said flatly. "And not just about me. Mark, she's been cheating on you this whole time. With Tom. And with other women too. The only person she wasn't sleeping with was you." Mark's head spun. Anne's voice softened. "I don't know what you're going to do, but I do know this. Jen isn't the woman you thought she was." Mark swallowed hard. "Thanks, Anne. I need to think." Then he hung up and started making plans. The next morning, by the time Jen sauntered into the hotel's breakfast lounge, still wearing her wedding dress, looking smug but slightly irritated, Mark was ready. Tom followed closely behind her, looking nervous. "Mark, why can't I get into our room?" Jen asked, feigning innocence. "I need to change before we leave for the honeymoon." Mark gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit down, Jen." She hesitated but complied. Tom sat beside her, instinctively reaching for her hand. "The reason you can't get into the room," Mark said, his voice deceptively calm, "is because I checked out at 3 this morning. I had all our luggage sent to the airport. Our bags are already waiting to board the flight." Jen frowned. "That was thoughtful, darling, but I still need to change." Mark leaned back in his chair, regarding her coolly. "Maybe I was a little hasty," he admitted. "But it's hard to think clearly when your wife is sleeping with another man on your wedding night." Jen's smile faltered. "Didn't you call Anne?" "I did." Mark let the words sink in before adding, "Turns out she isn't interested in men. And she isn't interested in staying friends with you either." At that moment, Anne stood up from a nearby table. "You lying snake," she snapped at Jen. "You ruined a good man. You broke his trust. And you tried to drag me into it. I never agreed to any of this." Jen opened her mouth, but Anne cut her off. "Oh, and by the way, while you're off on your honeymoon, June is moving in with me." And June left without another word. Jen turned back to Mark, looking rattled. "I just wanted to start a new tradition. Keep our friendships close." Mark chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Speaking of friends," he said, turning to Tom, "I made a phone call this morning. Our boss, Mr. Jameson. He's not happy about what you've done. You're officially fired as of Monday morning. Hope you didn't put too much money down on that new apartment." Tom blanched. Mark's cousins, standing near the door, cracked their knuckles. Tom took one look at them and bolted. Mark turned back to Jen. "As for you, no divorce. No alimony. I met with your father this morning. He's filing for an annulment first thing Monday. Since we never consummated the marriage, the courts should erase it like it never even happened." Jen paled. "Mark, wait." "No," he said simply. "We're done." Then he stood, adjusted his suit, and walked away, leaving her alone in her wedding dress with nothing